Hi, welcome to another edition of our Beginner's Guide to Web Development. I'm your tutor Samad Kantan. In the last video, I made mention that I was going to demonstrate how to submit users' data to MySQL, which is a back-end database server, using PHP, which is a server-side language. So we will need to install a web server. That is our first task for today. And what's a web server? A web server is simply a program that uses HTTP to serve files that form web pages emanating from client requests. Is that okay? So I'm going to grab the setup file from this URL. Then I am on Windows, so I'm going to download Windows setup. If you're on Linux or Mac, then you can download the respective setup for your operating system. So I'm going to grab the 64-bit version. This is going to download XAMPP onto my computer. Okay, so we have it here. So I can click on OK to begin the download process. But since I have this already downloaded on my machine, I'm going to go into that local directory and initialize or initiate this installation wizard. So I'm going to go into my local directory where I have downloaded this server in the past. Then I'm going to launch the setup wizard. Okay, so you are going to follow these prompts here. Make sure MySQL is checked, PHP is also checked as well. Then you click on next. Now this takes you to the point where you have to choose the installation directory. So by default, it will try to pick or select the XAMPP directory. If you want to change, then you have this option here to change where you want the setup to be installed in. So if I click on next, I'll be prompted that the installation directory or the chosen directory isn't empty. As you can see, okay, so I'm going to cancel this query or wizard, and then I'm going to show you what or how the program looks like. This is the program interface after you have successfully installed the XAMPP or Apache setup that we have just downloaded. So this is how it's going to be like. So before you will be able to serve any web pages or resources from the back end onto the front end, you have to make sure that you start the web server, make sure it's running. This is going to, as in my case, this is going to serve the request or any files that we request from the back end. So I'm going to also turn on the MySQL, that is a database server. These two are the ones that we'll be using for the scope of this tutorial. I'm going to minimize this here. And that's just that for the first activity. Now we have successfully installed Apache web server. Now the second activity here is to copy your project files into the htdocs, which is the subdirectory of the XAMPP installation setup that we have just carried out. So I'm going to pick my program. I don't know where yours is, but mine should be on the desktop here. So I'm going to pick it into the htdocs directory. So I'm going to go inside the XAMPP htdocs, and then I'm going to copy this into my htdocs directory. Okay, I've successfully copied the file into the htdocs directory. Now, the htdocs directory serves as the public directory. That is where all our files, our server side or our project files are going to be saved from. Is that okay? So that's just that for the second step. And that brings us to our third activity, which is to preview your project or project in the browser by navigating to this URL. So I am going to open to my browser, then I will type into the URL address bar localhost slash the name of my project, which is sign up with local storage. So this might vary depending on the name of your project folder. Now I'm going to open this in Visual Studio Code text editor. So I'm going to go inside and right click, open with Visual Studio Code. So on the right side of our screen is our project. Now let's see what's in the index.html file. So if you were following along, you should be having the same code inside your index.html file. And thus we can move on to our next activity, which is step 4, convert your form to a server request ready format. So initially our form is in a client state. Is that okay? So we are going to convert it to a server request ready format. So I'm going to comment out the script because we are no longer going to use this in this tutorial. And then I'm going to add some attributes here. We have the method, that's the designated method type is going to be post, and action defines where the data should be sent to when we click the sign up button. So we want it to be posted to the same file. Let's see our next activity. Step 5 is to read request data in your server file, which we are going to do in the next video.